Go ahead.
It will take years, probably decades of effort on many fronts. There will be failures and setbacks, just as there will be successes and breakthroughs. And as we proceed, we must remain constant in preserving the nuclear deterrent and maintaining a solid capability for flexible response. But isn't it worth every investment necessary to free the world from the threat of nuclear war? We know it is. I am directing a comprehensive and intensive effort to define a long-term research and development program to begin to achieve our ultimate goal of eliminating the threat posed by strategic nuclear missiles. This could pave the way for arms control measures to eliminate the weapons themselves. We seek neither military superiority nor political advantage. Our only purpose, one all people share, is to search for ways to reduce the danger of nuclear war. My fellow Americans, tonight we're launching an effort which holds the promise of changing the course of human history. There will be risks, and results take time, but I believe we can do it. As we cross this threshold, I ask for your prayers and your support. Thank you, good night, and God bless you.
Fantastic. Fantastic. When you consider what goes on today in politics and the lack of seriousness among our politicians, there's the difference. And he said, look, there's going to be setbacks and there's going to be progress, but we got to do this. We really don't have any choice. And he was right, wasn't he? The Israelis think he was right. The South Koreans think he was right. And now many Americans think he's right. And notice when the media do these stories, as you just saw, on North Korea, when they do these stories on THAAD, when they do the stories on the Iron Dome and so forth, they never mention this was Reagan's brainchild. Reagan insisted on it. He could have done what Obama did, just blow out the defense budget, enter these phony deals, pretend that he saved America, pretend that he put off on, the Iranians for 10 years. Reagan didn't play games like that. He knew these enemies. When I interviewed Sharansky, I hope you heard it, as I said, and you go back on our radio site, marklevinshow.com, and you can listen to these. Sharansky said, and he said it on the air near the end of the interview, and Sharansky was a refusenik. He was a Russian Jew. They threw him in solitary confinement and in prison in Siberia for 9 years. He was sentenced to 13 years. But one of the reasons he got out, he said, is because of Reagan. Reagan said to Gorbachev, if you want the American people to take you seriously, this is according to Sharansky, then release Sharansky. Again, more to that story later. But here's the point. Sharansky said when he met Reagan, it was close to the end of his term, and he wasn't getting specifics straight. He said, for instance, when I came to meet him, he had just met Shevardnadze. Shevardnadze was I think he became the president of Georgia at one point. And the Sharanskys, he and his wife came in later, and Reagan said to Sharansky, called him the Shevardnadzes, and said he had just met with Sharansky. And he said none of that mattered, because he said people bring in charts, they get in the weeds and everything else. He said the thing about Reagan was his moral clarity. That's the phrase Sharansky used, his moral clarity. He never lost it. Freedom versus tyranny, us against them. How do we keep the peace? How do we protect the American people? What do we need to do? Constant moral clarity, constant focus. It was never in doubt. It was not up for debate. So the specifics be damned, other people could figure that out. And you heard the moral clarity. That's 1983. That's 2 years into his first term. He didn't have to talk about strategic defense initiative. He could have used his money and splashed it around, our money, and splashed it around to get more votes, because he didn't know at the time that he'd win in a massive landslide. Could have done it. He said no. And he was opposed by the same Democrat Party that seeks to destroy Trump and seeks to destroy every Republican president. And they fought him tooth and nail, and he would not back down. He had resolve because he had moral clarity. As I said, when Gorbachev said, look, I'll give you what you want on the nukes, but you got to cut the strategic defense. He said, no way. SDI goes forward. And he was advised, his own advisors said, what are you doing? Politely, of course. What are you doing? Why are you doing that? He said, because I'm not giving up what I know to be right. SDI. And any other president, in my view, would have given it up in a second. In a second. He said no. Because he truly believed that one day we would be technologically advanced enough if we put enough resources and focus into it to protect this country from a nuclear attack. And that was his greatest fear. His greatest fear. And he was right. Now, the American experience over at PBS, back February 23, 1998, they did a program on Reagan. But I wanted to pick out these 3 minutes of this soundbite for you to check out. Go ahead.
Let me share with you a vision of the future which offers hope. It is that we embark on a program to counter the awesome Soviet missile threat with measures that are defensive.
To Reagan, defense was a moral imperative, but a daunting task to those who had to work out the details. Perhaps there would be satellites in space with computer-guided lasers that would zap enemy missiles. Most scientists dismissed Reagan's Strategic Defense Initiative, or SDI, as unworkable.
Stop. Most scientists, you see, most scientists say the climate's changing because of man. Most scientists say this is an impossibility. This is a phrase, a nothing phrase the media use all the time. All the time. Most scientists, did somebody take a survey? But first of all, you know, these are technological advances decades ahead. So you make the effort. You make the effort to protect tens of millions of Americans. That's what you do. What, we should spend more on food stamps? Go ahead.
He was known to have a rich imagination.
Stop. He was known to have a rich, don't you hate these people? He was known to have a rich imagination. I'm so thankful, seriously, that we have this format to expose these clowns. He was known to have a rich imagination. Thank God he had a rich imagination. Thank God he didn't listen to most scientists. Thank God he had moral clarity and said, no, press ahead. We have to defend this country and the people in this country from nuclear attacks. Go ahead.
I think Ronald Reagan really believed in SDI. I think he had this view that, I mean, it was like the way he used to talk about events that had actually happened in the movies as if they really had happened.
See, Reagan had a loose screw, you see. Sort of clownish, amateurish, a B actor. This is what they used to say about him. Many of you young folks out there don't know this, but that's what they did. This is a fool, a buffoon. He's a columnist. And I believe his wife at one point, if memory serves, was on the highest court in Massachusetts. But these elites who know absolutely nothing about anything, knows nothing about science at all. But he was trashing Reagan. You know, his imagination, and, you know, his cartoonish mentality and so forth and so on. Go ahead.
I think he was like, you know, Star Wars, the movie.
All right, Hayden, focus that.
Now we have, you see, PBS that you pay for back in 1998, mocking the whole enterprise, you see. Go ahead.
Projector on him and let him have it.
The Star Wars in which Reagan starred was filmed in 1939.
Stop. What does this have to do with anything? Playing a clip from a 1939 Reagan movie, other than to mock him, right?